This is my next question. And it says this: can you speak to how Christians are supposed to conduct themselves as far as assembling together as a body of Christ when the government is putting restrictions on that because of health reasons or whatnot? And are we also to obey the governing authorities as a believer? You already talked about that a little bit.
Right.
Can you also speak to freedom of movement as far as going where I want to go versus staying at home to observe the restrictions, not necessarily the mandate? What is a Christian supposed to do in those situations?
Well, in those situations, I'm going to obey those things. Again, you obey every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, and I'm going to obey those things just because I don't. There's places where I need to make a stand, and when there's a sickness going around and everybody's freaked out by the sickness, I can take the hit. I can take the hit. It's not something that I need to make a stand for. If they came along and said, from now on, because of our population and any kind of situation that might come up in the future, we ban all churches. Well, you can take that and place it where the sun doesn't shine. It's like that would be my attitude towards that.
Right.
But you do have people who are afraid, and they're trying to curb the intensity of the spread of the disease, and so I can be, I can do that. I can do that, and so again, just having done my research on this and looking at how this gets spread, you guys, it gets spread like a cold, and so lots of people are going to get this. And what the government is trying to do is stop as many people as possible from getting it as quickly as they could get it. When I don't know if everybody understands this. My son again is he's a student, but he's a student employee at Harborview Medical. And so the issue here that they're worried about is the number of beds that they have for people. And one of the things that they're doing in Seattle at this point, he's told me about this. If you come in and you're sick, and it looks like you may have this, you have COVID-19, or you may have COVID-19, they have to take you and put you in the hospital and isolate you. They're not putting these people in rooms with other people with the same disease.
Right.
They're putting them in rooms all by themselves. And so you're literally taking up a whole room, basically, and taking up a hospital bed when you come in and you say, I think that I have this, and they have to do something with you. And so what they're asking people to do is not come into the hospitals unless they have really bad symptoms, like they can't breathe and that kind of thing, because you want to keep the hospitals open for those people. And so if what they're worried about is hospitals getting swamped. And so our area is one of those places that they're worried about. We only have so many hospital beds for really, really sick people, and we're in a litigious society, and this is part of consequences. We're in a litigious society, and so you got a hospital, and somebody comes in and says, I'm sick, and I've got these symptoms, and I want to be tested, and that kind of thing, and they're doing tests, and it takes a day or two to find out if the test is for real. Well, then you're taking up space at that point, and they have to do something about it. Otherwise, you go off and maybe you get sick, and maybe you die or somebody in your family dies, and then you come back and sue the snot out of them.
Right.
And so hospitals have to do things to take care of this stuff. And so I think, again, as Christians, I'm a believer, and I don't want to get this. I don't want to get any disease that comes through, but it gets spread around like a cold, and you know how often you get colds, right? And so there's a good chance that I might get this, and so what I'm going to do if I get it is I'm going to stay in my house, and I'm going to work through it, and I'm going to try to keep Bobby out of the room, but if she wants to come in and help me, that would be good. I'm just joking. But, it's gonna be that kind of thing, and I'm not gonna go tromping down to the hospital immediately. And I think that's how we should be looking at this. There are a lot of older people that are in way worse shape than I am, that are going to need hospital beds, and so I don't want to be taking that out.
So my wife works at Cadillac, and they're doing. I mean, Washington's one of the most heavily sick states when it comes to COVID-19, as far as numbers goes. But they're, like you already mentioned, they're running out of medical gear. Every time a patient comes in, they have to put on new face masks and stuff, so they don't have enough. And then when they're coming in the hospital, at least what she told me, is they're doing temperatures, checks, have you been sick, trying to make sure that whoever comes in. And then there's restrictions, right? So you can't just go and visit somebody.
Yep.
If somebody's maybe dying or pregnancy, she told me it was like 1 or 2 visitors for certain things. But when you have whole people that rush the hospital, and that's what kind of is happening in Italy, and of course they have more numbers than we do, but now they're deciding, okay, this guy needs heart surgery. We don't have enough beds. What do we do? Right. How old is he? And now they're trying to pick, okay,
they're doing triage.
They're doing triage. If this person's older, okay, cancer treatment, COVID-19, we don't want it to spread. And it's this weird place because people aren't doing what you're talking about as being having some sense.
Yeah, so just have some common sense and stuff. And I know a couple of people who've had this. They're really sure that they've had it. And for some of them, it's been something where they had a cough and flu-like symptoms and headaches and body aches and that kind of thing, and we're up and around and walking around. And one guy was saying, I probably spread this all over the place. He went to the gym and he did all kinds of stuff. And then his family got it, and they're in bed for 5 days. And so, it's going to be that kind of thing. And it's, I don't know. This is. Having it get spread like the flu, I just think that it's going to be going around, and so I have a plan on what happens if I get it, and so if I got so bad that I couldn't breathe, that kind of thing, then I would be thinking about going to the hospital. But if it's not like that, I'm not going. Right. I don't need to. There's other people who are in worse shape than I am, and they can use that. So, it's just like anything else as a Christian. You be other-centered. And so it would be the same thing with my kids. It's like if my kids were sick and they were in really bad shape, then I'd get them down to the hospital. And I would hope that there wouldn't be a kid who's in there who just has a fever and that's all, taken of a bed. If my kid can't breathe, I would like to save him. And so, I would be thinking like that, and trust God, be other-centered. God takes care of us.